Hello YouTube, my name is Paul. I hope you're all keeping well. I've decided today to do my first collection video, and I've decided to do the Amstrad GX4000, 464 and 6128 machines and a selection of cartridges. A machine I never owned back in the day. I owned an Atari ST when these came out, but my nostalgia stems from reading a CMVG article upon their release, and I was quite curious in them. They looked really good. The specs were really good, albeit they were 8-bit machines, so I was tempted for a little bit until common sense sank in and I realised that they're not as good as what I already had. But based on that, I've decided to collect them years later because actually I would love to have seen what they were like. Unfortunately, their success was very limited. In fact, they didn't have any success at all. They kind of came and went. So they are a curiosity to me. They're probably curiosity to much of the world, to be honest, because they're not machines that many people know about. So I've decided to collect from now. I got my first 464 about, I don't know, 17 years ago, and it came with Pang, which was quite a nice surprise, even though I didn't realise how rare Pang was back then. I picked up a GX4000 probably around about 2001, and then I sold the 464 but rebought another one boxed about 2012, I think it was, and I've been collecting for it ever since. As you know, it's not a common machine and the game's quite hard to get hold of. Some of them are nearly impossible to get hold of, and there's only 2 known copies of the game to exist. There may be more out there, who knows, because like I said, some of the later games were mail order only, so there could be more out there. Nobody actually knows. So yeah, I'm going to introduce you to the 3 systems that I have, and I hope you enjoy the video, and thank you very much for watching. Okay, then this is my collection of my Plus range. So Amstrad released the Plus range in the autumn of 1990 and released these 3 machines. The GX4000 was the first and last effort by Amstrad to enter the console market, from what I remember. The 464 and 6128 Pluses replaced the CPC range of computers of the same name. Again, I've had these now for a few years. So my 6128 I picked up about 4 years ago, probably for around 100 quid. So not a bad price for this machine, as it's the rarest of the 3. The 464 Plus, unfortunately the keys are now starting to yellow. I picked up for about 100 quid. I think that must have been about 5 years ago. This machine wasn't like this 2 years ago, so the yellowing's quite recent. I did have it in a baggie within the box, which is how the machines came, and this one I didn't have in the baggie at all. So I put it back in the baggie, believe it or not, and then I took it back out and took the baggie off. So I'm not sure if it has any impact whatsoever on yellowing. It probably doesn't, but who knows. And then the GX4000. So the GX4000 I've had for about 17 years. When it was originally released, it was released for £99, which wasn't a bad price, to be honest. 15,000 units sold. I reckon far more were dumped though, because it's one of those machines that never seems to fail to appear. Do you know what I mean? It's always on eBay, so I can't imagine that only 15,000 machines exist, but 15,000 machines sold nevertheless. The 464 Plus again was retailed for about 229 for a monochrome monitor and a computer, and 329 including a colour monitor, which is crazy really, because that's like ST prices. And then the 6128 was even more incredible. It's £329 with a monochrome monitor and £429 with a colour monitor, which puts it at being as expensive as a Commodore Amiga, which was vastly more superior. The box art and everything, it looks really sharp, to be honest. I thought it was really impressive. It was pretty futuristic for its time, and very impactful, I thought. So in terms of like the marketing, I know Amstrad put a lot of money into marketing these machines and done a decent enough job. Unfortunately, they should have been developed about 3 years before they actually were. So obviously the cosmetic changes are apparent. Look just like a 16-bit machine now. Very similar to the Amiga and ST. In fact, they're about 80% the size of those machines, so a little bit smaller, but you can see the familiarities there, or similarities I should say. But yeah, price-wise, a bit expensive for the time, probably why they absolutely sort of tanked. They came with cartridges, all 3 of them. So GX4000 came in a burning rubber cart, you can see there on the right hand side. The other 2 machines, they came with a ROM cart. So on the ROM cart you had obviously the ROM and the burning rubber cartridge. This was to save Amstrad a bit of money. Instead of having the ROM on the motherboard, they literally had it on the cart, so all they had to do if they exported it to say France or wherever they exported it to, Spain, Italy, whatever, they just changed the ROM cart and changed a few keys. And that was it. So quite wily really. In terms of the specifications, I mean, they had as many colours now, or the colour palette was just as large as the Amiga and the Atari STE. It could display 32 colours on the lower setting, the lower mode 0. Again, similar to the STE and the Amiga. Sprite scaling, I'm sure there was some kind of hardware sprites as well, which was fantastic. Which again is comparable to the E and the Amiga. Probably not quite as many sprites on screen, but it was, the fact they had that ability was fantastic. Stereo sound coming out the AUI chip, so again identical to the Atari STE. The 2 computers though had to have a monitor attached, which was a bit of a pig. But the GX4000 you can connect to the TV via a cable, a RF cable or a SCART cable. But personally I love these machines in my collection. I think they're some of the best machines. Very obscure obviously. Probably comparable to something like the CD32 in terms of obscurity. Not many games came out on cartridge form. Sort of 26 maybe, 20, I think someone said 27, but I don't believe there's 27. 26 cartridge games. Obviously backward compatibility with the 6128 discs, and another point to note, I don't think the 6128 can have a tape deck attached to it on these Plus models, whereas the CPC range obviously you could. Backwards compatibility with the vast Amstrad library of tapes, and well, it's only got what it was given. But yeah, really pleased with that bundle of machines. I'm now going to talk about some of the games, so thank you for listening.
On main viewer now, Captain. It appears to have dual control pedals, plus it's powered by ROM cartridge. Scan reveals lifelike picture, plus stereo sound. Captain, where did that thing come from?
The GX4000 games console from Amstrad at £99. Where else could it come from?
So on to the good stuff, the games. So a lot of the games you'll find here in the UK on eBay, or the best place to go outside the UK is France. You'll find a lot of those games that used to cost a bomb, like Copter 271 and Panzer Kickboxing in France, for a decent price these days. Well, as long as the pound don't keep dropping, that is. So the most common game is the packing game, which is Burning Rubber. Again, released by Ocean Software. If you played Wek Le Mans before on any of the 8-bit systems, it's very similar to that, just a bit or more of a souped up version of it. Again, a lot of these games are quite, I wouldn't say hard to get, but they do come up every now and then, especially like Batman. I mean, Batman the movie came out in 1989 by Ocean Software. Not sure if you can see much of the way of the screenshots there. There are some really good comparison videos out there. I know Novabug's done a few, so it'd be worth checking out his channel, which I'll leave a link to the bottom, but you probably already know him. But he does some really good comparisons between the CPC range and the Plus range, just to see what differences there are in the cartridges. So I won't go too much into detail about stuff like that, because it's worth watching the video. What can't speak, can't lie, as Del Boy used to say. Fire and Forget 2 by Titus. Again, not a common game, but not an overly expensive one either. Then we've got Barbarian 2, The Dungeon of Drax. Again, quite common, one of the more common titles. Just trying to get that screenshot in there without the glare. Switchblade, bit of a run and gun as they call it these days. Gremlin graphics. Does have some advanced features in this game over the CPC computer. Operation Thunderbolt. Game by Ocean Software, arcade conversion. That came out in 1989. Unfortunately, a lot of these games came out the year before the system came out, so you can imagine how cheap the games were on budget re-release labels compared to paying what these games were going for. No Exit. Pile of crap, to be honest. But again, it can come up quite frequently, and sometimes it don't come up at all. Now the best looking game on the system, Robocop 2. I remember reading a review for Robocop 2 and that's what almost tempted me to get one of the systems temporarily. Graphically gorgeous, bloody hard game. I can't even get off the bottom platform, let alone the first level. Tennis Cup 2, Larissio. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong. Probably the most common game after Burning Rubber, and this will fetch you about 10-15 quid these days, is World of Sports. Now with the Epic's label at the bottom there's blue, the European one is red. So if you're a variant collector then that's one for you. It looks a little bit like California Games, it reminds me of, one of the Atari Lynx, that screenshot did. Another really good conversion is Klax by Domark. Again, check out Novabug's comparison videos there, because they're very informative. Ooh, my favourite game on the system. Like most people, it is their favourite game. It's also quite an expensive one. It varies in price quite wildly. It doesn't come up that often, and that is Pang, again by Ocean Software. I'm sure it's another Taito conversion, but it looks fantastic and only bettered on one home computer in a day, and that was the Amiga. This was better than the ST version, believe it or not. It was faster, it was smoother, more playable, and I really liked it. Another one that used to cost a bomb, doesn't so much anymore, it's Panzer Kickboxing. Again, go to France for these. Nice graphics, not a bad game. Another one, same place really, Copter 271. Again, pop to France for this one. Not the best of shoot 'em ups, but again, highly collectible. Sometimes it comes up and sometimes it doesn't. It's kind of hit and miss, but it's not by no means rare. Another one, again, you can probably get for France for quite a decent price nowadays, is Pinball Magic. Why you would be surprised you can get them in France, bearing in mind that it's a French publisher, but another French game, Wild Streets. Again, it took me a little while to get this one, and this one can vary in price quite wildly actually. Again, not a very good game, but doesn't come up very often. Now, this game recently went for 260 quid, which is quite crazy really, because it's not a particularly great game, but again it's obscure. Comes up maybe at the moment once a year if you're lucky, and that's Mystical. Never actually played this one, doesn't appeal to me, but I'll have to give it a go one day. This one took me ages to find. Again, I've probably seen 3 copies now over the years, but it took ages. 2 come up within about 6 months when I got it though, typically. It's Dick Tracy. Bearing in mind how rare these games are, right? I've got another comparable system, which is the 32X, Sega 32X. Similar amount of games, but these games are rarer, believe it or not. Some of them are rarer than even the mighty games like T-Mech or Primal Rage. I mean, you think of Primal Rage and you think of Chase HQ2. Christ. Another really hard one to get. I think this was the second to last game that I got. Mystical was actually the last one out of the big box games that I picked up, but Plotting took ages to find. Another Taito conversion, Ocean Software, comes up if you're lucky once a year. Very good game though. Back down to Earth, Pro Tennis Tour. This was surprisingly quite hard for me to get. For 6 months or so, and this didn't come up. And then every now and then you get like 2 or 3, but again, none of these games I would call common. They just really are quite hard to get. Crazy Cars 2 by Titus. Again, nothing too special about it. Now another game that really shows what the GX can do in the CPC Plus range, and that's Navy Seals by Ocean. Another rock hard game, but once you memorise where everything is, it's not so bad. But again, it's got some really good CPC Plus enhancements in there, so worth getting it just to see the actual graphical additions. And Tintin on the Blinking Moon. Again, can be quite difficult to get hold of, but I played the asteroid section, or some section you've got to pick things up as you fly through space, but not my cup of tea really. Now this last 2, they took me ages to get. Again, I don't know if they're originals. I've never ever seen the box set. I've picked up bits of the box set, as in like the 2 carts and the gun, but if they're original or not, I really honestly do not know. I've never seen the gun come up on eBay with the whole package. Another really good site to check out is Zypho. So Zypho is somebody who's very Amstrad orientated. He loves his Amstrad. He's got a GX4000 collection in similar size to this. He's got a load of bootleg games, which I don't have. He knows more than I do about this sort of stuff. And he's got a website, I think it's gx4000.co.uk or something, but check him out as well, because he's got some really interesting stuff. And it's helped me along the way, to be honest. But these two. So, they're both working. I've got no idea if they're original or not. The inlays look like they've just been stuck on, but I think the gun was third party anyway. So I don't think you can see the crinkles there. But it's a third party gun, so who knows, I ain't got a clue. They probably cost me about 50-60 quid each per cart, so they're not cheap. But again, they very rarely come up. And that's it for the games I have in my collection. So in the next part we'll be talking about the games that didn't come out, or did come out, and almost blinking impossible to find. So I'll see you for the next bit. Thank you. Welcome back to the final part. Chase HQ2 then, eh? Special Criminal Investigations. Last seen at auction in 2010, went for £900+. Imagine what it will go for today, eh? £2,000, £3,000, who knows? I'd love to have a copy of it though. I don't know about you. This is Pang, this is not Chase HQ2. I've got a list in front of me of games which should have come out for the GX4000 and the Plus range, but obviously half of them didn't. So I'll just read them through quickly, just to see what's on the list. And this was an official list released by Amstrad. So Robocop 2, we know that came out. Pang, Wild Streets, they came out. Spy Who Loved Me by Domark, should have been released in December 1990. Chase HQ 2, December 1990. Nicely sandwiched in between Navy SEALs Plotting and Dick Tracy, which all come out. Split Personalities, January 1991. Badlands. So Badlands did come out on the Commodore cartridge. Kickoff 2. Copter 271. The infamous Gaza Soccer, which saw a review in a couple of magazines. Did it get released? No one actually really knows, do they? Copter 271. Stun Runner by Domark. Should have come out in February 1991. Then Panzer Kickboxing. And then finally on this list is Double Dragon. I know Double Dragon got a pre-release on a different system, not the GX4000, but on a different system, and I actually saw it on eBay a little while ago going for about £500. So who knows? Who knows, Double Dragon may have a pre-production copy on the GX4000. But that's it. I mean, generally, like I said, the last video I probably contradicted myself. I said 1 minute they're common, 1 minute the games aren't common, but generally they're hard to get. Some games are quite easy, like your Robocop 2s and your World of Sports, for example, but some are genuinely kind of once a year they'll show up, like your Plottings, your Dick Tracy's and your Mysticals, for example. So I've really enjoyed collecting for the GX4000, and I do enjoy collecting more for the obscure systems than I do for the nostalgia ones, because some of the games you just never know. You never know what's out on them systems like to collect, so it's great fun. I've enjoyed making these videos actually, and I will be back to make another video based on another obscure console quite soon. In fact, the competitor to the GX4000, which in itself was a sorry story. So thank you very much for watching. I do appreciate it, and thank you for all the new subscriptions, and thank you for all those who have subscribed so far. If you're not too late to enter my September competition, please do so before the end of September. And I'll see you in the next video. Thank you very much.